This vulture might think there's nothing to fear, but if they don't know about that Hail Mary Focus Blast, they're about to find out. Welcome back to the channel. Ultra League is without a doubt my favourite league. However, is it accessible? Not really. The top tier picks are either very XL heavy or legendary Pokemon. Both cost a lot of resources. It has been a hot minute since anyone has uploaded a fully non-XL team in the Open Ultra League, so huge shout out to today's battle submitter Cutlassboy. He's not only running a fully non-XL team, he's running them triple shadows, and to add to that, we have got a full KANTO team. I am old as fuck and I love KANTO, so I'm super hyped. We have got 3 sets to get through today, so I'm just going to stop jibber jabbing, and without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game number 1, we lead Gengar into Togekiss. The charms are supposed to be resisted, however it doesn't look like it. Speaking of resisted, the opponent makes a very nice catch, catching the triple resisted Shadow Punch onto Obstagoon, but undeterred, Cutlassboy full sends the Focus Blast. Get that Obstagoon out of here. There's the first big boom of the video. Obstagoon might think it has nothing to fear, but Gengar has that party trick. The opponent now sends out Swampert, and Gengar, still not done, smiling away, throws the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch forces a Protect Shield. Swampert does get a very nice Mud Shot farm down. However, we can send out the big thick boy to operate as the damage sponge. The opponent full send an Earthquake, and Snorlax just does not care. It is so thick. The opponent once again makes a very nice catch, catching the Body Slam onto Togekiss. We can send out Mark. Mark doesn't really care about anything in Togekiss's arsenal. The opponent throws the Ancient Power. We withstand the damage, commit to the Poison Jab, farm down. Swampert now has a lot of work ahead of it. Cutlassboy attempts to throw the Acid Spray, however loses CMP. We shield up the incoming Hydro Cannon, return fire with the Acid Spray, which of course is resisted, however will be lowering Swampert's defense. Acid Spray actually applies a 2-stage defense debuff, so you can see the Poison Jabs might be resisted, but Swampert's now forced to throw. We can just send in Snorlax. Snorlax has a Protect Shield, 2 high beyond. We can shield up the incoming Hydro Cannon, commit to the Lick farm down, and we're going to be off to a 1-0 start. GG's, and thanks for playing. In the next battle, Cutlassboy leads Gengar into Swampert. This team is ABA weak to ground. However, you can see Mud Shot's not the most threatening quick move, although Gengar doesn't particularly tank them all that well. We shield up the Hydro Cannon. Cutlassboy farms up, throws the Shadow Punch. Gengar hits like an absolute truck and demands a shield back from the Swampert. Cutlassboy then banks the Shadow Punch, catches the Hydro Cannon onto the big thick boy, where it doesn't do all that much damage. The opponent now send out Skeledirge. Snorlax's licks are hitting for super effective. However, Snorlax typically runs Body Slam and Superpower, as we've got, and both the charge moves are double resisted due to Skeledirge's Ghost subtyping. You can see the opponent showed no respect. They then commit to the Incinerate farm down. Snorlax has managed to get Skeledirge down below half health, and now we send in our big pile of gunk. Alolan Mulk does have the typing advantage in this matchup, but again, running Poison Jab, this is a pretty awkward matchup. You can see the Poison Jabs aren't doing a lot, and Cutlassboy is now forced to double shield. We've now got Gengar with no Protect Shields, 2 high beyond. We pivot back out into Gengar. The opponent sends out Onkoloik. What is that doing on my screen? We full send the Focus Blast, so I don't have to look at it for all that long. That little piggy was straight in and straight out. The opponent now sends back out Swampert. They play to a CMP tie. They do not win. Shout out Home Slice Henry. Shadow Punch forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Hydro Cannon will be lethal, even if the opponent no bubbles it. We now send in Mark. Cutlassboy over farms, throws the Dark Pulse, one before the next Hydro Cannon. Swampert gets deleted, back out, comes Skeledirge, and Mark is going to complete a very nice sweep. GG's, and thanks for playing. We are just 2 battles in, and we're 2 for 2 on landing that big Focus Blast boom. In the next battle, we see Gengar into Giratina, the battle of ghost types. Gengar's lack of bulk on display. I've never seen Giratina hit so hard. We shield up the Dragon Claw. Cutlassboy farms up past the Shadow Ball, baits with the Shadow Punch. The opponent shows huge cojones, calling the bait. We then pivot into Snorlax to catch the energy. The opponent likely pivot to not give us any free farm. The opponent does pivot out into Typhlosion, another buffed Pokemon that I am very keen on showcasing in its shadow form this season. Snorlax fires off the Body Slam, forcing a Protect Shield. The opponent over farming heavily, allowing Snorlax to make Body Slam number 2. Typhlosion now left deep into the red. The opponent farms up to 100 energy, which is back-to-back Blast Burns. Cutlassboy allows Snorlax to go down. We now send in Gengar. Gengar, of course, gonna respect the incoming Blast Burn, as Blast Burn would probably delete Gengar and all its relatives. Gengar does leave with a whole heap of residual energy. The opponent now sending Gliscopod. Cutlassboy fires off the Shadow Punch, and my god, do we need to pivot. Shadow Punch forces the Protect Shield, but unfortunately the Shadow Claw takes us out, so it's now all down to Mark to sweep this team. The opponent fires off the Liquidation. Hopefully they attempt to pivot, and Cutlassboy gets a very nice Poison Jab farm down onto Giratina, but no, the opponent actually catches the Dark Pulse, and I think this is going to be game over. We go for the undercharge, but we still manage to take out Giratina. Mark will survive this Liquidation. However, can we survive the Shadow Claws? No, we can't, and unfortunately we're going to take a loss. GG's to that opponent. In the next battle, we see the battle of KANTO Pokemon. A very nice lead for Gengar, as due to our Ghost Poison typing, these counters are triple resisted. Cutlassboy farms up, throws the Shadow Punch, forcing a Protect Shield. The opponent still farming up 1 bazillion energy, allowing Gengar to make Shadow Punch number 2. Point to note, you will notice that Cutlassboy is always farming up to at least 7 before he throws his Shadow Punch. Essentially, he's faking it till he makes it. 7 Shadow Claws would be enough for a Shadow Ball. The opponent baits us with the Power Up Punch like a savage, and then throw the Skull. The opponent then switches out into Skeledirge with throw at super awkward timing, allowing the opponent a full free Incinerate. Cutlassboy pivots out into Snorlax, saving his Gengar. Snorlax going to operate as the damage sponge. The opponent throw the Shadow Ball. Holy Mr. Opponent, you need to learn typings. Normal, double resist Ghost, so that definitely wasn't the play. Due to the opponent throwing the wrong charge move, Snorlax is actually going to win this mid-game matchup. You're going to see from the damage we take from this Disarming Voice, if the opponent went double Disarming Voice, they would have maintained Switch. Snorlax capitalizes on the opponent's mistake. They send in Melmetal. Snorlax greets it with the superpower. Switch timer pops up. Cutlassboy goes for that wham, bam combo play. Throws the Shadow Punch on the CMP tie, leaving Melmetal on a sliver of HP. Cutlassboy produces a very nice endgame, leaving Mark a very easy path to victory. 1 Poison Jab takes care of Melmetal, and Poliwrath is also going to get Poison Jab farmed down, and we take that game. In the next battle, once again we see Swampert. This one is a pretty cool shiny. I imagine Cutlassboy looks to fake the Shadow Ball before throwing the Shadow Punch. The opponent spams the Hydro Cannon as soon as they get it, or at least I thought they did. They're actually on Surf. I'd highly recommend investing in Elite TM in Swampert if you'd like to use it. Cutlassboy did not disappoint me, faking the Shadow Ball, forcing a Protect Shield, then pivot out into Snorlax, and you can see why I recommend Elite TM in your Swampert to Hydro Cannon, as that Surf damage is pathetic. The opponent farms up some energy, attempt to catch a Body Slam onto KANTO Graveler. Holy cow, what a pick. Cutlassboy farms up, baits with a Body Slam. The opponent calls it like a savage, so Cutlassboy YOLOs the superpower the second time. KANTO Graveler made a very brief appearance and got vanquished back to its Pokeball. The opponent saving their final Protect Shield for their Charmer. Snorlax still not done, able to reach the Body Slam. Body Slam does reasonable chip damage, however we can just send in Mark. Mark going to be able to Poison Jab farm all the way down. No one move will take care of Mark, especially not Ancient Power. The opponent gives us a huge Poison Jab farm down. We leave with residual energy back out. Comes Swampert, and we're baiting with the Acid Spray. Acid Spray forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. We can just save our shield now for Gengar. Hydro Cannon will be taking us out with a lowered defense. 1 Shadow Punch is going to be huge overkill, but it looks like Cutlassboy has other ideas, looking to go for the BM Focus Blast. Can the opponent survive? They cannot, and unfortunately, we take them out with a Shadow Claws. Moving on to the next one. Gengar into Cresselia. This is where you really see the difference of stat products, as the Psycho Cuts are almost doing as much as our Shadow Claw damage. The opponent pivots out into Gliscor. We fire off the Shadow Punch, forcing a Protect Shield. We then make a very nice catch of the potential Night Slash onto Snorlax. The opponent does have Night Slash and not Aerial Ask, but either way, Snorlax doesn't give a shit. The only move that is going to threaten our big thick boy is the potential Stab Earthquake. Gliscor withstands the Body Slam this time. The opponent does build up to an Earthquake. We call the bait. The opponent YOLOs the Earthquake, and apparently Snorlax doesn't even care about that. We withstand the damage, make 1 further Body Slam. The opponent likely doesn't shield, as they're already down 1 Protect Shield, and they don't. Back out comes Cresselia. Cresselia gets the Psycho Cut farm down. Cutlassboy sends back out Gengar. We see the instant shield deployed on what's likely some kind of bait. The opponent, of course, does bait with the grass knot, knowing Gengar's essentially shield everything, but undeterred, Cutlassboy over farms, throws the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch isn't going to be lethal, however we do make a very nice catch back onto our Alolan Mulk. The grass knot does absolutely nothing. The opponent now sends out Poliwrath, and this is where we really wish we had the Hail Mary of something like Gunk Shot or Sludge Wave, as Acid Spray isn't going to do a lot, but does apply that 2-stage debuff. Both trainers have one Protect Shield remaining. Cutlassboy not interested in shielding up Muck. We're able to withstand the Icy Wind, return fire, one further Acid Spray, which I imagine the opponent lets go, which they do is now tasked to Gengar to sweep this team. Gengar is going to be able to shield up the incoming Icy Wind, commit to the full Shadow Claw farm down. After a debuff, the question's going to be, is one Shadow Punch going to be lethal? You know the drill. The first Shadow Punch forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. And is this second one going to be lethal? The opponent is in the red, and Gengar doesn't care about any debuffs and takes that game. Gengar into Greninja. Not a great lead. Cutlassboy stays in. I imagine we're going to attempt to catch a Night Slash onto one of our back Pokemon. You can see we attempted to catch onto Muck. However, as the opponent threw after 3 Water Shriekings, we're caught in the Shadow Claw animation. However, try again this time. We do bank the energy and do catch the Night Slash onto a Alolan Muck where it is resisted. The opponent happy to stay in as they know they outpace to the Hydro Cannon, which we can't afford to shield. Greninja running through our team. The opponent lands the Hydro Cannon, then pivots out into Poliwrath, looking for the counter farm down. Muck fires off Acid Spray before dying to the counters. The opponent still has 2 Protect Shields, 2 hide behind, and this looks somewhat tricky. This is a situation where the Acid Spray is going to come in clutch, as Poliwrath has a 2-stage lower defense and the opponent is likely to start shielding. They shield up the Shadow Punch, we shield up the Icy Wind. Gengar now over farming, firing off one further Shadow Punch. Poliwrath's defense is now technically only 1 stage lowered, as they did lower our attack. We land the Shadow Punch snipe with Snorlax. The opponent's Greninja is quite low and his energy dries, so the opponent opts to send out Cresselia with a Protect Shield to hide behind Snorlax. Goes for the Body Slam. Body Slam doesn't do too much damage, however the licks have almost got it down below half health. Cutlassboy has no Protect Shields to hide behind. The opponent fire off the Moonblast. The next Moonblast with the Psycho Cuts is going to get us incredibly low. Snorlax fires off one further Body Slam. The opponent still hanging on to that Protect Shield. Snorlax bulk about to be put to the test. Can we survive the incoming Moonblast? Yes, we can. The big thick boy, just far too thick. We bank the Body Slam for the road snipe with Gengar. Back out comes Greninja. Gengar goes straight for the resisted Shadow Punch, which forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Gengar able to reach one further Shadow Punch. Is Shadow Punch enough to knock out? No, it's not, but we do manage to Shadow Claw farm down and take that game. In the next battle, we see Gengar into Shadow Gardevoir. Holy, the opponent save switches into their own Gengar. We pivot into Snorlax. The opponent doesn't build up to a potential Focus Blast. However, shielding up a Sludge Bomb isn't a bad idea, as that would have done a lot of damage, as Gengar has a ridiculous attack stat. Snorlax gets a huge lick farm down, leaves with residual energy good to go. The opponent sends back out Gardevoir, which by no means has a good matchup, as due to the sub-psychic type in these licks, they're hitting for huge super effective damage. Cutlassboy fires off Body Slam. Number 2, the opponent just completely sacks Gardevoir, putting all their hopes and dreams on the back of Greninja. Cutlassboy doesn't even build up to the superpower, recognising the opponent's likely to shield, and we don't want to lower our own defence. The opponent did shield, and then now they heavily overfarm. The opponent needs a Hydro Cannon to take us out. The opponent full send the Hydro Cannon, recognising Night Slash won't get the job done. We now send out Alolan Mulk, and we're going to start tearing through Greninja with these poison jabs. The opponent fire off one further Hydro Cannon, getting our Mulk below half health. Cutlassboy shields up the next charge with the opponent bait like a savage with the Night Slash. Cutlassboy fires off the Acid Spray. Acid Spray forces the opponent's final protection. We pivot out into Gengar, forcing the energy. Do 3 poison jabs, knock out Greninja. 1, 2, 3. Yes, they do. And we manage to take an incredibly close game. GG's. In the next battle, we see a big core breaker. Both Gengar and Snorlax are going to struggle against this flying vulture. Cutlassboy stays in, shields up the incoming Dark Pulse, and imagine a YOLO the Focus Blast. Cutlassboy does indeed YOLO. Does the opponent respect the damage? Focus Blast lands for huge damage. We then pivot into Muck to catch the next Dark Pulse. Side note, we did throw after 3 Shadow Claws. Of course, you want to throw at 1, 4 or 7, but regardless, we do make a very nice catch. The opponent answers our Alolan Mulk Say Switch with Buzzwole. We fire off the Acid Spray. Acid Spray forces a Protect Shield, and the opponent look to fire off the energy immediately. Lunge isn't quite lethal, however the opponent does get a nice counter farm down. Cutlassboy very happy to see the counter user on the battlefield, so Snorlax doesn't have to see it. We send back out Gengar, which is triple resisting the counters, go straight for the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch secures the knockout, and Cutlassboy is spamming the switch. Mandibuzz, after taking that Focus Blast damage, incredibly low. The opponent build up some energy, then send out Regirock. Cutlassboy going for a very risky bait. I don't imagine the opponent shields the first move. However, what the hell do I know? The opponent does shield up the Body Slam bait, allowing us to go for the Super Power. Super Power lands for decent damage. Even with a lower defense, the opponent is going to need to Focus Blast to secure the knockout. The opponent throws the Stone Edge. We easily withstand the damage. The opponent throw one further Stone Edge, and I imagine at this stage we can Shadow Claw farm down and win CMP against Mandibuzz. In comes Gengar. Gengar going to shield up this incoming Stone Edge. The opponent does have a move bank. However, let me fucking tell you, you don't want to play charge move priority events against Gengar. Back out comes Mandibuzz. We win the CMP tie and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we lead Gengar into Haxorus. If the opponent's running counter, this will be a great lead. If they're on Dragon's out, it's probably not. The opponent is on counter, which is triple resisted. The opponent goes straight for the break-in swipe. Do we get debuff? No, we don't. Let's go. Gengar now returns fire with the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. We then make a very nice catch. Catch the next break-in swipe onto Alolan Mulk, banking the energy. This time the opponent does get the debuff. However, Mulk still manages to get the Poison Jab farm down. As I said in the previous battle, you really do not want to play to CMP ties against Gengar. Gengar's attack stat is so high that it even beats Haxorus. The opponent answers our Alolan Mulk Say Switch with Jolteon. I have no idea why there's a Jolteon on my screen. I think Electric is a pretty good anti-meta typing in this meta. However, if you're going to run an electric type, I think stuff like Heliolisk, due to its subnormal typing, resisting Ghost, or something like Ampharos is objectively better, as it's got Brutal Swing to hit top meta threats like Giratina and Cresselia for super effective. I'm out here talking crap about Jolteon, but that discharge actually did a lot of neutral damage to our big thick boy. The opponent's final Pokemon is Dragonite, ABA Dragon. That is a very interesting team. Cutlassboy pivots back out into Gengar. We shield up the incoming Dragon Claw. Cutlassboy goes for the BM Focus Blast, because why not? Hi Dragonite, bye Dragonite, GG's, and thanks for playing. In the next battle, we see Gengar into Cresselia. We've seen this one play out. Cutlassboy gonna build up to at least 7. Fake it till you make it. The opponent needs to build up to 8 to do any meaningful damage. This is only a Moonblast, but we see Cutlassboy respect it because Gengar is made of paper. As the opponent has forced early shield advantage, I imagine they probably let Cresselia go. If you're going to lead Cresselia, you've obviously got Ghost Answers in the back. The opponent does indeed let it go. We pivot out into Snorlax, drawing out Swampert. Clearly this opponent thinks Trevenant is a myth, as they are very weak to Trevenant so far. The big thick boy lands the Body Slam. Swampert returns fire with the Hydro Cannon. The big thick boy easily withstands the damage, able to make one further Body Slam that should finally pressure a shield. Body Slam does force the shield. The opponent then going to return fire one further Hydro Cannon. This won't quite be lethal, but that's going to be even worse as Swampert is going to Mudshot farm down before the next Body Slam. Cutlassboy has energy banked on Gengar. We just need to throw before the next Hydro Cannon. Cutlassboy, very nice counting throws on the CMP tie. Shadow Punch. Oh, no, trainer, why would you shield? The opponent opts to shield, which is going to allow Gengar to shield in return, get the Shadow Claw farm down, and we leave with residual energy. Good to go. The opponent's final Pokemon is Alolan Mulk. We've got Focus Blast. Get that Mulk out of here. We pivot into our own Alolan Mulk. We're easily going to be able to withstand whatever the opponent throw. They throw the Moonblast, an easy tank, and Mulk is going to Poison Jab farm down and take that game. In the next battle, we see Gengar into Venusaur, a very nice lead. The opponent Say switches into Caesar, and we don't really have a great response. We opt to go for the Shadow Punch. I imagine we pivot into Snorlax. Shadow Punch forces a Protect Shield. We don't see the pivot, so Cutlassboy is going to shield in return. Please don't boost. Luckily for us, we don't see a boost. Cutlassboy goes straight for Shadow Punch. Number 2, is the opponent willing to double shield? Yes, they are, and this time we do pivot into Snorlax, but the opponent does hold their energy. This could be an Iron Head. Let's see what they're running. The opponent does full send the Iron Head. Snorlax withstands the damage, able to get the Lick farm down. The opponent now send out an unshielded Limpole and then look to make a superpower catch onto Venusaur, but Cutlassboy one step ahead, holds his energy, fires off the Body Slam. Body Slam does decent chip damage. What the heck is that, Razor Leaf? Razor Leaf in Ultra League. I've seen it all now. The second Body Slam gets Venusaur incredibly low. This is straightforward from here. We should send out Muck, look to get the Poison Jab, farm down. Cutlassboy looking to find his lose con. Sends out Gengar. Gengar gets Razor Leaf farm down. It's now all down to Muck with a Protect Shield to clean up. Dark Pulse hits for huge damage. However, these Poison Jabs are resisted. The opponent looking to double up on charge moves. We're going to shield up the first one. However, the second one is going to knock out. No, the opponent's on Hydro Pump. Holy cow. I've been shoutcasting on YouTube for over 2 years, and that is honestly one of the strangest battles I've ever seen. But GG's to both trainers. Gengar into Dragonite. Oof, this Dragon Breath's going to hurt. Gengar getting absolutely torn to shreds. We're already at half health by the time we've only thrown 5 Shadow Claws. We fire off the Shadow Punch, forcing a protection, then pivot out into Snorlax. We're going to respect the potential superpower of the opponent. Bait with the Dragon Claw. Every time you masturbate, a poor defenseless cat dies. Mr. Opponent, stop baiting. They actually choose to shield up the Body Slam. And this time, we're just going to tank whatever the opponent throws. They go for yet another Dragon Claw and then pivot out into a Fire Spin Charizard. Fire Spin this season did get buffed, so it is now more viable. However, I still think Wing Attack's preferred. You can see the extra damage allows Charizard to get the full Fire Spin farm down. We send back out Gengar. We see the instant no shield deploy. Looks like Cutlassboy saving his final Protect Shield for Alolan Mulk. The opponent full sends a Blast Burn, which is massive overkill. That is going to allow Mulk to get the Poison Jab farm down before the opponent even reaches a Dragon Claw. Back out comes Dragonite. Cutlassboy could Poison Jab farm down. However, these Dragon Breaths are doing a lot of damage. We throw the Acid Spray, which does secure the knockout. The opponent's final Pokemon is Virizion. Oof. Are we going to win this game with no Sludge Wave? Alolan Mulk's Bolt going to be put to the test. Can we survive a Sacred Sword? Oof! The opponent must have Stone Edge. The opponent fires off a Leaf Blade. This again, only a Leaf Blade, which isn't going to get the job done. And the opponent not running Legacy is going to allow us to take this game. Judging by how low we was, if the opponent had Sacred Sword, I think that would definitely be a loss in the next battle. We see Gardevoir in the lead. The opponent safe switches into Kingdra. We go for the Shadow Punch, force a protection. We then see the pivot into our trusty Thick Boy. Kingdra is one of them very annoying Pokemon. Are they going to Outrage? Are they going to Octazooka? We call the bait. The opponent full send the Outrage, which lands for heavy damage, but Snorlax able to withstand it. Fire off the Body Slam, gets the opponent low. We're looking for the Lick farm down, and we get it. My God, Snorlax, so thick. We even exit with a Body Slam for the road. Snorlax putting in so much work. Cutlassboy opts to realign. He sends out Alolan Mulk. The opponent doesn't even reach a charge move. We get a huge Poison Jab farm down. The opponent's final Pokemon is Talonflame. Again, we don't really throw out the best timing. Ideally, you want to throw out 2 or 7 or 4. Definitely not 3, as we did give away 4 free turns. But regardless of that, this game's just over. We shield up the Flame Charge again. We should have thrown 2 Poison Jabs and the Acid Spray. But Acid Spray forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. We pivot out into Gengar. Gengar is going to shield up the next Flame Charge. We're going to reach the Shadow Punch and take that game. So 2 turn into 5 turn. To only give away 1 free turn, you ideally want to throw 2 quick moves. The same can be said with 7. If you're really desperate, you can throw out 4, which gives away 2 free turns, but never throw instantly, like in that last battle, as you give away a huge 5 free turns. In the next battle, we see a Charm Beartic. Holy spice. We force early shield advantage, then pivot out into Snorlax. Beartic learns Ice Punch, Surf, Play Rough, Liquidation. Nothing too threatening. The opponent throws the Liquidation. Snorlax, of course, doesn't give a shit, as it is our damage sponge. We tank the damage return fire with the Body Slam, securing the knockout, and the opponent now respond with Ampharos. Snorlax doing what Snorlax does best, spamming out Body Slams. Body Slam forces the protection of the opponent, running APA Charm. What a team. The unfortunate thing for this opponent is we have 2 things that do resist Charm. We send out Alolan Mulk. Alolan Mulk lightly shields once and Poison Jab farms down. Looks like Cutlassboy has other ideas. We tank the Aerial Ace, leave on a sliver of HP, and we're firing off the Acid Spray. The opponent has no protections. I've got no idea why we don't Dark Pulse, but it is what it is. Cutlassboy opts to throw the double Acid Spray, which of course is going to mean a Shadow Punch will be lethal. I have no idea why the opponent is throwing a charge move. We've got 2 Protect Shields. The opponent YOLO Dragon Pulse. I actually still have Dragon Balls on my Ampharos. I don't want to talk about it. I just don't want to remove it in case it one day gets buffed. But Cutlassboy takes that game. In the next battle, we see Gengar into the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Bird of Death. You can see this season, Incinerate is now doing 4 damage while generating 4 energy. And Gengar is not appreciating the buff. We fire off the Shadow Punch, forcing a Protection, then pivot out into Snorlax. Is the opponent going to Brave Bird and dip? We call the Flame Charge, it is just a Flame Charge, and the opponent now sends out Chestnut. Snorlax going to do some nice chip damage with the Body Slam. I think Chestnut's actually a really cool core breaker in this meta. However, when there's stuff like Talonflame around, it is very high risk, high reward. The opponent fires off the Frenzy Plant, commit to the Vine Whip farm down. Gengar does fully resist all charge moves by Chestnut. However, I don't think we're going to tank one from this range. Cutlassboy shields up the superpower. That is going to allow Gengar to get less farm, so a pretty smart play from the opponent. Talonflame is only 1 Incinerate away from a charge move again. We could have thrown 2 Shadow Claws and the Shadow Punch, which would have actually knocked out Talonflame, but regardless, we do snipe with Muck. The opponent's final Pokemon is Greninja, and it's going to be Acid Spray, Poison Jab all the way. We go straight for the Acid Spray. Acid Spray forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Cutlassboy calls the bait. The opponent do bait like a potato. Cutlassboy can just shield up whatever the opponent throw. The opponent this time falls in the Hydro Cannon. I don't even think Hydro Cannon would quite be lethal. Mark now reaches 1 further Acid Spray. Acid Spray gets Greninja to 1 HP and a Dream, and 1 Poison Jab takes that game. Huge shout out to Cutlassboy for submitting a fully non-XL team in the Open Ultra League. So if you're enjoying their content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing if you like your battles featured on my channel. A link to a battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thank you to everyone for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.